Hi everyone and welcome. It is August 16th, 2022. My name is Cédric Mayer and I'm an immigration lawyer at Hopefully Immigration Law. And today we're doing a regular Tuesday live Q&A. And I frequently telework abroad, and right now I'm on the GMT plus 3. So it's 4 a.m. in Toronto. It is 9 a.m. in London, UK, and I'm here to answer all your immigration questions. So before we begin, I do want to talk about the CRS scores. It's a very popular topic. I've got a lot of questions about this, and I do want to touch base on the postgraduate work permits. In the meanwhile, feel free to start asking your questions. I already see some people joining us here. We have Ralph who says, um, oops, we have Ralph. Unfortunately, it's not. The emojis are not working, but Ralph says uh, peace sign, heart, and peace sign again. All right, so start asking your questions. We're going to talk very briefly about Express Entry, and we're going to start welcoming people in here. So we have also Avtar Singh. We also have Axel. Show hot potato CRS score. Axel. So this is in French. So donc je parle français aussi. Donc si vous intéresse d'avoir des services juridiques en français, n'hésitez pas. Ce serait un plaisir de discuter avec vous. All right, we have more people joining us. We have Moonsoon Winter says, "Got my PR today, thanks. I owe it to you, man. How do I get my sister here? She's not an orphan and does not fall into any other categories for sponsorship. She is disabled though." Well, you know what? We'll talk about CRS score. Always popular, but Monsoon Winter, let's get straight to your question. So you're absolutely correct that when we're talking about sponsoring someone, we're usually talking about sponsoring a common law partner or a spouse, or in some cases you can sponsor a family member if they're orphaned, or in other cases you can actually adopt someone as well. So usually, and there's also sorry, just briefly, there's also sponsorship for parents. However, it's a lottery-based system, and it's quite competitive to get parents inside Canada. There are super visas for parents, but generally speaking, we're talking about sponsoring a spouse, a common law partner, and we're also in some cases your own children, including them in your electronic application for permanent residence. They can also get their permanent residence. Parents can have a super visa, allows them to stay in Canada for up to 2 years. The visa can be valid for up to 10 years. But when it comes to siblings, unfortunately, there isn't much you can do. There's no sponsorship for siblings to be able to sponsor them to come to Canada under like a family class sponsorship. Now, there's other immigration pathways, right? And so we also have obviously Express Entry. There's also the Atlantic Immigration Program. There's the Rural and Northern Immigration Program as well. These are permanent residence pathways. But long story short, your sister is going to have to come here on her own merits. She's going to have to come here either to work, to study, and get enough points for Express Entry, which is a very common pathway. If we head over here to the ministerial instructions respecting invitations to apply. We'll talk more about the CRS points. Everyone's always very curious, but to answer your question, Monsoon Winter, let's take a look here at your sister, and your sister can actually get points for Express Entry for having a sibling in Canada. So they would get 18 points. So this is assuming that you've already signed your confirmation of permanent residence, right? You don't actually need your PR card yet. Just get this signed at the border. So you're living in Canada, you're more than 18 years old, and you have your PR status inside Canada, right? With the signed confirmation of permanent residence, they would be able to get 15 points. So in terms of study, it could actually be a factor that works against you, right? Because we're talking about having ties in Canada, whereas an officer is going to be looking at the ties in the home country versus the ties in Canada, right? So, and this could actually be a reason why your sister, in the eyes of a visa officer, might not believe that your sister is going to be returning. So to get additional points for Express Entry, if they're going to be coming here on a temporary status, make sure that you explain why they're going to return to their country, although your sister has family. But long story short, she's going to have to immigrate to Canada on her own merit. There's no family class application for siblings. All right, John Sran says, "Hi, I got refused for permanent residence through TR to PR. What should I do?" So, interesting question. The very first thing you should do is try to stay in Canada with a valid status, a status that's available to you. So, for example, if your postgrad work permit is expiring before December 31st, 2022, can you get the 18-month extension? Right? Is your employer willing to get you a labor market impact assessment to get a work permit, right? Are you maybe exempt from a labor market impact assessment? In some cases, you might actually have to switch to a visitor record, right? So try to have a status in Canada to be legally inside Canada, and respect the conditions of the status. If you do switch to a visitor record to stay inside Canada, you obviously can't keep working, right? So that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing you need to do is you need to know that there's a few options, but let's head over here to our website under blogs. And I actually wrote a blog about visa reconsideration requests. So here we go. So my visa application was refused. Visa, study permit, work permit, TR to PR. Your application was refused. Actually, I should probably change this to saying my immigration application was refused. In any event, take a look at this. It talks about all the various options. For refused applications, but this is essentially a web form that you make to IRCC where you tell them that there's a factual error, there's a legal error, like why was your TR to PR refused? Is there something that if you think IRCC made a mistake? Can you argue this? Can you try to have them to reconsider their decision? Right? In some cases, we have clients where TR to PR is refused, but they can get a post-grad work permit extension. At the same time, they're going to be able to get more points for express entry, and then they start working on another PR pathway, right? So one option is applying to another PR pathway. The other option would be to re-argue, right? Try to get a reconsideration. And again, you can do both at the same time, right? You can try to get now points, get a labor market impact assessment, at the same time try to re-argue your reconsideration request. Lastly, and this is what I have experience with, is going to the federal court. So if you take a look here, if you're inside Canada and you receive a rejection, you have 15 days to seek leave and judicial review. So this, if you go over to the federal court website, tells you a little bit more about how it works, but this is like a formal action that you would take at the federal court against IRCC, right? So a federal court judge is going to be reviewing what IRCC did and look whether the decision was reasonable, or if under a different standard of correctness in some cases, whether the decision is correct. So judicial review at the federal court is an option. It can get quite complicated, and but it is a valid option to compel IRCC to examine your TR to PR application as well. Now, if the decision is correct, for example, you were not employed at the time you applied for your TR to PR, or you're missing some language scores, going to the federal court or re-arguing this might not be the best option. But if there was a mistake that was made, a clear mistake that was made, or the decision is unreasonable, these are your options. Do the reconsideration request, go to the federal court. You can also head over to our website. At the very top here we have speak with a lawyer. So again, I don't know why your TR to PR was rejected. I don't know the details, but my pleasure to talk to you about this case. I have worked at the federal court for 1 year for a judge providing legal advice. You can actually see I've done some remodeling, and this is actually from the federal court, showing that I was a law clerk. But here we have it. So you can go on our website and actually book a consult. And we also have our colleagues Chanel and Alicia if you're interested in speaking with them as well. You can actually learn more about me. Go on to our teams. Scroll down here. It's also a link in the video about Cédric. But yeah, civil law, JD, Masters of Law, and I previously provided legal advice to the federal court. So listen, if you think the decision is unreasonable, if you think a mistake was made, you have 15 days to go to the federal court. You can also consider doing a reconsideration at the same time, and you can also start focusing right now on another PR avenue. All right, there we have it. Sorry about that. Bernard Ombassa says hello to you. TLHR Dubai says, can I have your number, please? The first step to speak to me is going to be to book a consultation. It's the best way that's going to be able for us to sit down and talk about your immigration file. We do many things to provide access to immigration to a lot of people, like these Q&As. We have blogs on our websites. We also have on our website, we're starting to develop more and more on our legal services. We're talking more about the minimum eligibility requirements. We also have a newsletter. We also have courses. So we do a lot of things that that is free, that is helpful. But if you do want to have legal advice, we do require you to book a consultation with us. This is our Canadian institution. We do have master classes. So in this you have live one-on-one with Mark in a small group, usually about 10 to 20 people, where Mark takes the time to talk about your express entry, the questions you have, how to complete it. It also includes a lot more information, and that's what I'm trying to get to here. Oh, there we go at the very bottom. Oh, where is it? Where's the landing page here? Just trying to find it. There we go. So you see at the very bottom, so we have premium videos over 612 minutes, over 642 minutes, and this is what we cover. So question about passports, question about offer of employment, use of rep, how does it work to complete application details, how does it work for study and language details. So we have all these individual videos that are recorded exclusively for people of the masterclass, and then you also get 4 live hours of Q&A with Mark. Which is really fantastic. So again, small groups, get to answer your questions and get one-on-one time with Mark. If you're interested in this, head on over to our Canadian Immigration Institute. The link is also in the bio and by now. So long story short, we are a law firm. We do provide legal advice. We do express entry applications, the study permits, to go on a federal court, and we also have individual consultations to talk about your immigration cases and a lot of free content, blog posts, and also courses. All right. Avatar says, how low can CRS score drop for CEC in 2022? Well, excellent question, and this is something I want to talk about is CRS points, so let's head right to it. All right, let's go back here. Here are the express entry rounds of invitation. It's something that we've talked about a lot. And so right now, we can actually see that the last draw was on August 3rd, and the draws right now are happening every about 3 weeks, right? So if we look at our calendar here, the next draw, we expect it to be on the 24th. However, this is not set in law. There could be a draw tomorrow. There could be a draw next, even earlier than next week. But we expect the next draw right now, based on the previous draws, to happen on August 24th. Interestingly, you can see actually here this is increasing. 1,500, 1,750, 2,000, right? And now, the last draw was 2,000, but here's where it gets interesting, guys. If we look at before COVID, right? Before COVID, so we're going to go back to 2019 here. Before COVID, they were doing about 4,000 person per draw. So the minister wants to get this back to 6-month processing. At the same time, they're going to be increasing. At the same time, they have their levels planned. So every year they try to accept a certain number of permanent residents. And so they need to start ramping up the amount of draws or the amount of people they take per draw to meet that target level they set for themselves. The draws are only going to be increasing. Canada's only going to be accepting more permanent residents. So let's try to get this back to the 4,000, or we're going to have more frequent draws. So we can only speculate here, but if if we go back to our pool, if we go back to our pool here, you'll see that if they're taking 3,000 people every 3 weeks, they're taking, let's say, about 4,000 a month, right? So 4,000, it's going to take 2 months to go through, assuming there's no new PNP applicants, assuming there's no one with new CRS scores above 500. This will take 2 months to go through, and then this is going to take another month. So we're 3 months, and now we're going to talk about 4 and 5 months. It's going to bring us to the end of the year. So I think there's going to be around 480 is going to be the lowest we're going to see this year. Again, this is just speculation, and this is based on previous draws on previous times, right? This could change instantly, right? And we've seen it during COVID where they've actually taken if you go back to previous rounds during COVID, they've done some massive draws, right? Let's take a look here. 27,000. CRS score 75. I mean, that's crazy. It's like 6,000 draw, CRS score 350, right? So obviously this was a very unique time where they scooped up everyone who was inside the Canadian experience class. But But we are expecting that the minister, by the end of the year, is going to start occupation-specific draws. It's going to start region-specific draws where the CRS score is going to be important. You still have to meet the eligibility, but they're going to be able to, accept, all physicians, all doctors in Ontario accepted in PR. Great. Now they're going to target all engineers and programmers accepted into PR. So they're going to have that ability, and it's going to be very interesting to see what the minister is going to do with it. In other words, while we're talking a lot about CRS score right now, it could all be about your profession and region in the upcoming months. So stay tuned. We actually don't know. Ralph says, Mark Holt fan, and you guys, well, thank you so much, Ralph. We really appreciate it. Manojok Kumar says, hi, Cédric, what's the success rate of demand letters or mandamus for delayed applications? Does it really work? This is an excellent question. It's actually quite a hard question to understand, even as a lawyer, but let's get to it. So actually, let's just talk a little bit about mandamus applications. So mandamus applications, we're talking about applications that are delayed. We're talking about cases that are above, generally speaking, above the processing times. It's before COVID, you were seeing about 40 to 50 mandamus applications going to the federal court. So it's an application you make to the federal court, and it's a mandamus is a Latin word, but for immigration law, what we're interested in is compelling IRCC to start processing your application. So, for example, you have let's give a concrete example. All right, you've applied here for, let's say, a work permit, right? A work permit outside Canada from India, and the expected processing time now is 45 weeks. So let's say that you've been waiting for a year for a work permit, so 52 weeks, or even a year and a half. Well, in this case, you may consider retaining a lawyer and doing a mandamus application. The first step in a mandamus application is actually to write a demand letter. In other words, you're sending it to IRCC and you're asking them, saying, listen, guys, sending it to Department of Justice and IRCC at the same time, and you're going to say, I am going to go to the federal court, and I'm going to go seek this mandamus application. Look at what's happened in my file. It's taken way too long to render a decision. Hi, everyone. Please go ahead and start processing my file right now, because in 2 weeks, I'm going to the federal court and I'm going to start a mandamus application. And this is detailed in a recent blog that I wrote called Delayed Applications at IRCC and the Writ of Mandamus. And we're just going to scroll down here. And to answer your question, the first step is going to be a letter of demand. So the first step, as I talked about, we're going to write to Department of Justice, IRCC, and we're going to detail your whole case, what happened. You're going to show that you are not responsible for the delay. You've done everything properly. And there's a big delay. So right now, IRCC, there's some news articles out there you can find about mandamus applications, but IRCC is seeing about 400 mandamus applications, so 10 times the amount of mandamus applications that are being introduced against IRCC for unreasonable delays. The success rate of a demand letter or a mandamus application is going to depend highly on the individual facts of a case. And this is what we would cover in a consultation, is that we would sit down and we would talk about your case and we would try to assess, A, are you responsible for the delay? And if you are, you have a lower chance of success. And B, how serious is the delay and the processing time? What we're looking for, and explain this in a little bit more detail, what we're looking for are circumstances that leads to an implied refusal. So for example, you've applied 2 years ago for a work permit, you're still waiting for a decision, but people who applied this year are already getting their work permits. Right? In my view, that's an unreasonable delay, and this would qualify as an implied refusal, right? So this is what we're going to look at in a consultation, and this is what I talk about a little bit. And the last step is going to be balance of convenience. Now, it's really hard to answer the question because, again, it depends really on your file. I have seen and I have written demand letters where the following week the application continues processing. And then the next step in the processing, for example, is medical exams, and then the medical exams have been already reviewed in IRCC within 3 days. So it really depends on the strength of your case. IRCC is taking litigation quite seriously, in part because there's very high volume and very serious delays, and it costs money for them to have a lawyer, to have their own lawyers, Department of Justice, to go to federal court and defend these cases when the delay is so serious, right? So they do a risk analysis and they say, okay, how much is it going to cost to go to federal court, write the briefs, write the memorandums, versus us settling this case at the demand letter and avoiding to do all this additional work and all these additional costs. So again, it really depends on the case, your case. We could have, we don't promise any results, but what we do is we explain to you. Right, we don't promise results. We're immigration lawyers, and it's completely improper to do so. If anyone's promising you any results in immigration, whether it's a work permit or permanent residence, saying I guarantee it's going to be accepted, that's illegal. That is not proper. You are not allowed to do that, right? You need to be licensed, like me, an immigration lawyer, and we talk about your legal risk. So, is it a 50% chance? Is it a 70% chance? I think that the success that we've had with some application is not indicative of other applications, right? So just because a client of mine received the processing their file continued a week after we send the demand letter does not mean that's going to happen in your case. But generally speaking, we're going to see the demand letter giving them a few weeks to take action, and after going to federal court and starting the application for the mandamus, there should be some exchanges between IRCC Department of Justice at around this stage where they're going to explain as to why they're not going to be settling, or waking up one day and your application continues processing. So Manoj Kumar, I encourage you that if you are interested in Mandamus application, book a consult with me. I'd love to review your case and talk more about the chance of success in your case. It could be anywhere from no success to 50-50. Again, very hard to do this to know about the delays and success rates, but it's something that I have experience with and that I would love to speak to you about. All right, next question. Chandru says, smart looking today. I have two questions. Well, listen, I've done some redecoration in the back. I've added this is from the Ontario Superior Courts. This is my license from the Law Society of Ontario. This is from being a law clerk at the federal court. They give you a certificate. And then here I actually have all my law degrees. So from the University of Ottawa, so my civil law, my JD, and my master's of law. Most lawyers will have, probably not the best idea. Most lawyers will have their bachelor and a JD. I have the Juris Doctor, the civil law, and the Master of Law. All right, let's get to your question. How much time required to get PPR after ADR? So how much time to get the passport request after additional document requests submit on non-express entry, paper-based at federal level? Interesting question. It's really subjective. It could be passport request could be anywhere from 30 days to 60 days after the additional request documents, right? A visa officer will have to review your sorry, what am I trying to say? They're gonna have to review the additional document request to actually continue the processing, and then if you do need a visa, they issue you the passport request. So there we go. Hi, sir. Can you help getting Atlantic Immigration Program designation? So the Atlantic Immigration Program is employer driven, so it is for employers who are going to be getting the designation to be able to give job offers, right? To be able to recruit foreign talent, foreign nationals, and so on. So if you're an employer, we would be able to assist you with that. However, if you're a candidate who wants to get a job offer, we are unable, right? We are not. Again, it's illegal to pay for job offers. This is not something that we do. But like I said, if you're an employer, we'd love to speak with you. All right, Amaka from Nigeria. Please, I want to get to Winnipeg for the express entry form. Should I tick the provinces or just Winnipeg? It's a really personal question, Amaka. If you're interested in going to just Winnipeg, just tick Winnipeg. If you're interested in going anywhere else in Manitoba, check Manitoba. But I'd be honest in your immigration applications. It seems from your question that that you just want to go to Winnipeg, so I would just tick Winnipeg, right? Don't try to tick all the provinces and whatnot in the hopes that it's going to work in your favor. You need to provide honest immigration from the very beginning. All right, going through the questions here. Take a look. So we have some more people greeting us. Hobane says hi everyone. Monsoon says she's under 18. Can she come as a dependent? This is in regards to Monsoon's question on trying to on getting the sibling to Canada. Unfortunately, no, they're not going to be a dependent unless you can actually prove dependency, right? So in disabled cases, so let's go take a look at the actual dependent children category. So it's again, they have to be your children. In this case, they're your sisters, so they're not going to qualify for it. But in some cases, for example, if you have a dependent children, even if they're above the lock-in age, there is a category for children, depending on the level of dependency. So there we go. So if they're over the age of 22 and have dependent financially on the support of a parent since the age of 22, unable to support themselves due to a physical or mental condition. So general rule, if you have children, the cutoff age is 22. However, if they are due to physical or mental conditions over the age of 22, they can still be considered a dependent child. In your case, Monsoon, we talked about your sister. So your sister is not, you don't have a parent-child relationship. She would not qualify under this. All right. Question from Tarasico. How much do you charge for processing study visa? You can actually head over to our website. We have all our fees on our website. Again, it all starts with a consultation. In the consultation, we talk to you about what your file. We look at whether study visa is the proper option for you. Right now, it's getting a little bit tight. If you want to go in the September term, it might be a little bit difficult to get your visa in time to start your program of studies. But something that we definitely speak to you about. You can actually take a look here on our website. We have legal fees and scroll down. So here we have our study permit fee. So it's $2,000 plus 5% tax for the study permit. And our approach is different from other law firms. So you deal directly with an immigration lawyer. You would deal directly with me. There's no law clerk. There's no paralegal. There's no one in between that you're dealing with that's going to be filling out the forms and talking to. All our correspondence, all our meetings is going to be one-on-one with an immigration lawyer. So this avoids mistakes. It avoids delays. It avoids other issues that could arise when completing forms. We work under a collaborative review approach, so you actually maintain full control of your immigration application. We target people who want to immigrate to Canada and understand what it takes to immigrate to Canada, but they want help from an immigration lawyer. They want an immigration lawyer to answer their questions, to review the forms together, to figure out the proper strategy. So our collaborative review approach model is essentially, well, here it's all explained here, but let's just talk about it. We would ask you in a consultation, we talk more about your case, and then the next step is for us to do a post onboarding call where we show you where to upload the documents and we talk about the required supporting documents. We also talk about the forms that you need to complete. And we're going to ask you to do a first draft of the forms, and then we're going to do a review call. In the review call, we review every form line by line, review every supporting document to make sure that it meets the definition that is required, right? You have sufficient funds, your letter of acceptance is valid, your forms are properly declared, you've put all the relevant information, so we make sure that everything is properly prepared to avoid any issues in your application. So to answer your question, we charge $2,000. You deal one-on-one with an immigration lawyer, and I believe that we provide really good value for the clients to save time and properly prepare immigration applications. All right, next question. Joe Ben says, hi, from Algeria. I finally got selected on August 3rd, Federal Skilled Workers. Congratulations. I would like to know if it's mandatory to declare all my bank accounts, or it's okay if the amount is sufficient. So there's going to be a question, right? You do have to provide under the federal skilled workers, you do have to provide proof of funds. and it depends on your family size, whether you're married, if you have children or whatnot. So in this case, you would have to provide a letter from your bank, and you're going to see that on the proof of fund page, actually you can get to it. It's called completeness check. Let's just get to the page that talks about it, about the documents. So here we are at the proof of funds. So again, the LICO requirements kind of depend on how many on the size of your family. But sorry, this is actually, so you do have to provide information on this, right? You do have to provide an official letter, and you're gonna usually have, there we go, actually it's right here, at the very end, the date each account was open and the current balance of each account, as well as the average balance for the past 6 months. So usually what you're gonna do is you're gonna print off your bank statements, right, for the past 6 months and include this, and also get an official letter from your bank that talks about the outstanding debts, right? So if, like a mortgage for a house, loan for a car, and you're also going to talk about all your current bank and investments account. So this is to meet the proof of funds, so you definitely have to provide this. Whether you don't have to provide, for example, your investment accounts or other accounts that do not require that do not like there's no requirement to disclose all your bank accounts, but you do have a requirement to demonstrate the proof of funds from one or more financial institution, right? So you can have one or more, right, to meet the proof of funds, but there's no for example general requirement to disclose all your bank accounts in all the countries. So there we have it. Irene says, "Hi, sir. About the postgraduate work permit 18-month extension, how about their spouses? Are a holder of an open work permit, can they also be renewed or have the 18 months extension? Thank you, sir. God bless." All right, let's take a look here. So there is specific rules when it talks about spouse work permits. So let's go take a look. This is under the LMIA exemption codes, and what we're interested here is in the C41. So let's go take a look here at C41, and this is for general eligibility for spouses or common law partners of skilled workers. So let's go take a look here. So for your spouse to get a work permit, here's what they have to meet, right? So a few things to keep in mind is that you as the holder of the postgraduate work permit got to be in a highly skilled position, so not O, A, or B, right? There's some other various exceptions, but generally this is going to be the biggest one. And you'll see here you'll see here that you also need to be employed for a period authorized to work in Canada for at least 6 months after the spousal work permit application is received. And physically residing in Canada or plan to physically reside while employed, and then a genuine relationship with a spouse or common law partner. So the postgrad work permit extension would allow you to get a work permit, right? And then once you get your work permit, or at the same time as you apply for the postgrad work extension, if you work at a NOC O, A, or B, you can also apply for the C41 spousal work permit. There's no information that contrary right now that says that you can't. So take a look at that, and they might actually follow up for the spousal, and you might actually need to prove you work in an OAB NOC category. So at the time that you submit the spousal application, if you can provide this proof up front, right, talking about a letter of reference that explains the NOC, your main duties and responsibilities. You can also provide your own letter of reference that explains the work that you do. So there we have it. All right, Devine says, hello, good morning. Hello and good morning to you as well. Again, kind of a weird time. If you're in Canada, it's like 4:30 a.m. However, if you're abroad, it's 9 a.m. London, UK time, or in the GMT +3, it's 11:38. So I telework frequently abroad. I'm actually heading back to Canada in about a week. All this to say, if you're abroad and you want to speak with an immigration lawyer that's on your time zone, I offer much more convenient times. All right, Umag Patel says, how to show family ties in study permit application if two siblings already PR in Canada, one in home country. Do siblings have negative impact on study permit applications? So Patel, we've highlighted this at the very beginning of our of this video, but let's head over to study permits, And let's take a look here at who can apply. And I don't think it says it explicitly. Let's just try to find it if we can find the explicit page. Actually, we might actually have to switch over to the immigration and refugee protection regulations. And what we're interested in, actually I can share my screen, let's take a look at it. What we're interested in is temporary residence. Let's go take a look at this. Right, so these are the regulations that apply. And so here we go. So to be issued a temporary resident visa, so here we're talking about what you would need to come to Canada, essentially. Or even if we're talking more specifically about a study permit, let's go find it. Students, there we go. Let's skip over here. There we go. So this is what we're looking for. And again, I could have just maybe answered this question, saved us a little bit of time, but you know what? Let's get right to the meat. We want to work with clients. We want to deal with people who want to do their own immigration applications, who need help to do it properly, right? Who want control over the immigration application, but want an immigration lawyer to help them to make sure all the supporting documents are correct, to make sure that everything is correct and not experience any delays. All right, so let's get right to it. So here, it doesn't explicitly talk about siblings, but this is what we're interested in. So at the end, to get a study permit, right, you need to establish that you will leave Canada by the end of your period of authorized stay. And this is going to be a very, very important one. And this is essentially the most important thing. You're going to leave Canada by the end of your stay. So what's going to happen here is for them to assess this. So then it talks about under Division 2 of Part 9, and this is what we're already talking about, was the temporary resident visas. Oops. So we can actually go here to table of contents, go to Division 2. Oops. What it says, first stay under Division 2 of Part 9. So let's head over to Part 9, and then let's go to Division 2. And so this is the conditions that are imposed on temporary residents. And so you actually have to leave Canada by the end of your authorized stay. This is going to be very important in your case. So the way that they're going to assess this is they're going to look at a few things, but in your case, they're going to look at the ties inside your home country, and they're also going to look at the ties inside Canada. So they go, okay, in their home country, they have a house, they have, for example, children, and inside Canada, they don't have any siblings. They have very good reasons at the end of their stay in Canada, at the end of the study program, to go back to their home country. You can also, when you're going to be submitting a study permit, and this is something that we help our clients with, is drafting letters of explanation, study plans, statement of purpose. You're going to be explaining to the visa officer why you're coming to study to Canada and how that Canadian degree is going to help you inside your country. So inside the study plan, they're also going to be looking at the reason you're coming to Canada and to look at, okay, do they have good reasons to come back to their country at the end of their stay? So in your case, Umag Patel, it really depends on whether or not you're going to have strong ties in your home country. So it can be a factor that the immigration officer is going to look at. All right, their brother and sister is already in Canada, and now they're coming to Canada. And does Umag own a house in their home country? Do they own property? Do they have another job to return? Do they have a strong reason at the end of their stay in Canada to return to their country? So this is something that we have experience with, is drafting these letters, the statement of purpose, to properly address this. And to explain this to the visa officer, to say, look, I have two siblings inside, Canada, but I'm actually going to be studying in Ottawa, and I have another sibling back in Canada. And if I go to Canada and study, right, my company is going to offer me a promotion. I'm going to have this certain designation to do accounting inside my home country, and this is going to bring me economic, it's going to economic growth, career growth, right? So this is the way that you would address it. And again, we do have experience in helping clients talking about their home ties. Generally speaking, it doesn't have, let's say, negative impact. It could, but it's definitely something that you want to talk about in your statement of purpose and your letter of explanation. All right, Cool Ninja says, "Hi Cedric, my work permit extension is supposed to get on August 8th, but haven't received it yet. What should I do now?" So they actually talk about this on their website, and I think you're talking about the postgraduate work permit extension that was announced for the 18 months. And some people are actually getting it late. Some of them got it a little bit later in the week. They were having problems sending out the email. They do talk about on the website, talk about a specific date. They say if you haven't received the email by a specific date, please make sure to reach out to us. So you're going to be interested in reaching out to IRCC. The question is, are you over that specific date? Let's try to find the program, the public policy that was announced. Um, Public policy, IRCC. Oh, this is not it. IRCC permit extension expired. Is the page? Sometimes it's hard to find. There we go. There's the page. I should definitely bookmark this. Let's go take a look at what it says about your interim work authorization. Starting August 8. Individuals who have not received it. So starting August 8, you should have received the email. As I mentioned, we've had some clients who received it later in the week. So fingers crossed that you're still going to get it. But again, it only applies in some cases, right? So have or will expire between September 20, 2021 or December 31, 2022. So Cool Ninja, my question for you, are you inside this time, right? If not, you're not going to receive the email. If so, and again, it talks more about the email notice, but we're not going to talk about that. But take a look here to see what it says. But I would actually submit a web form to IRCC to say, hey, listen, I haven't received my ability to work in the interim. Can you please send it to me, or can you explain why I haven't received it yet? All right. Question about express entry. Let's get right to it. So I do not have any foreign work experience, but I have 1 year continuous work experience from inside Canada, 2015-2016. Is that eligible for federal skilled workers? Let's go take a look. So here we're talking about eligibility. We'll talk more about CRS score in a moment, and let's go look at the federal skilled workers. And here we actually don't see any. We talk about skilled work experience. So here, skilled work experience means you've worked in one of these national occupational classifications. So it's got to be not O, A, or B. So let's assume that that's the case. Let's also assume that you have 1 year, right? So here we're talking about 1 year of continuous work experience, right? It's got to be within the last 10 years. Let's take a closer look here. So in your case, you got the work experience inside Canada. So I know why you're asking this, because when we're talking about the Canadian experience class, there is for your minimum requirements, there is this 1 year full-time work position, but it's only valid if it's within the last 3 years, right? So you're asking, can I use? So you're over the last 3 years, but is this still going to qualify for the federal skilled workers? So if you take a look here, it doesn't really talk about working outside Canada, right? Does it? Let's see. I don't think it does. I didn't see it. However, what we actually need to look at is the ministerial instructions, right? So what IRCC does a lot of times, if you have the law, the act, you have the regulations, and then they issue public policies, they issue ministerial instructions, and then with these ministerial instructions and whatnot, they create program pages so it's easy for everyone to understand. But in cases where you're not too sure, got to refer back here, right? So actually, when you're not too sure, you have to refer back to the immigration and refugee regulations. And let's get to the table of contents, and let's go take a look. So federal skilled workers. This is what you're in, right? So here's the answer to your question. So a foreign national is a skilled worker if within 10 years, right? They've accumulated 1 year of continuous work experience or the equivalent part-time in occupation identified by the foreign national in their application as a primary occupation other than the restricted occupation listed in O and B. So this is quite interesting. So it actually doesn't talk about the work experience actually being outside Canada. What I'll do for this question, Messy Boy, if you allow me, check back the comments in about a day or so. I'm going to talk to Mark and Alicia just to make sure that I fully understand. This is not a common thing that happens, and unfortunately, there's no clear answer right now in terms of the eligibility. Um, so it's an excellent question. Let's just try to find if we can find it. Selection criteria. Education, proficiency. Here is our, I think it's the next page here. Talks about experience. Talk about 10 years. Self-lead statement, duties, work and access, classification code, officer's duty. Is an excellent question. I'll check back. I'll put the question and the answer. I'm going to need to do a little bit more research for this. So thank you so much, Messy Boy, for your patience. All right. All right. Let's find our next question here. Um, So Ejal Singh says, thanks for the informative sessions. Can I claim points for 1 year of both full-time work along with full-time study? Both were outside Canada for express entry federal skilled workers. If yes, is there a need to justify how I did both? So this is going to bring us back to the actual to the immigration and refugee protection regulations. And in your case, we're going to have to take a look at what it talks about in terms of the work experience. So there is actually an exclusion for the work. So here, let's take a look. So designation, revocation. So definitely for the Canadian experience class, right? Your Canadian work experience um, cannot be the work experience that you get when you're a full-time student doesn't count. So that's 100% for sure. But the question in the federal skilled workers, so does this apply? Yeah, so so actually we can take a look here back at the IRCC webpage. Oops, study permits. Let's go take a look at the work experience for the points, foreign experience, and see what it tells us. Yes, so it's an excellent questions on Express Entry. Unfortunately, we don't have all the questions. I don't have all the questions to your answers. Again, I'd love to provide an answer. Oops, to provide an answer to this question in the comments. So please keep an eye out. I will answer it. Just to keep the live stream continuing, I'm going to go ahead and answer other questions, but make sure to check the comment section within the next day. I'll make sure to answer your question. And guys, to be honest, this is part of being an immigration lawyer. Being part of a practice is not always knowing the answer to their question, right? If for example, you meet someone else, you talk to somebody else, and they seem to know all the answer to the question, and everything seems too good to be true. It probably is too good to be true. There's over 80 different immigration pathways to Canada, and sometimes we're talking about points and expiries, and this program says that other program says this. It can be a little bit harder to know everything off the top of your head, and I want to make sure that I'm giving everyone solid legal information today. So I'm going to go ahead and answer these questions in the chat below, so please keep an eye on it. All right. Try to find our next question here. So Akilish says, hi Cédric, I'm an express entry eligible for federal skilled worker program. If I apply for a college and a student visa to increase my CRS score, will my visa be rejected because of an active express entry profile? So here we're going back to when we talked about, a study permit is going to be a temporary intent, and you have to demonstrate that at the end of your stay, that A, you have the temporary intent, and at the end of your stay, you're going to be returning to your country of nationality, right? So in this case, having an active express entry profile in some cases can undermine your study permit application, right? The officer is going to be looking at your profile and they're going to see, okay, we have one application to stay in Canada permanently, but in this other application, they're telling us that they're going to stay temporarily, right? Dual intent is allowed, so you can claim dual intent, but generally speaking, when you're going to be applying for your student visa, you're going to have strong ties in your home country and provide a strong study plan, statement of purpose, letter of explanation, whatever you want to call it, explaining why you're coming to Canada, how the study permit can help your studies, and you're going to have to acknowledge, I would strongly recommend that you actually acknowledge that you have an express entry profile, still pending, but demonstrating how you still meet the requirements of the study permit. So it is something that you do have to talk about, something that they're going to take in consideration. In some cases, yes, it can have a negative impact. Abdel Rahman says, what is the average processing time for security check on PR application? My application eligibility and criminality passed, only waiting for security. Background on May, still under progress. So Abed, it really depends on an individual. It also depends on what PR program you apply to. The minister is committed to getting back to that 6-month processing time for PR applications. So we're going to keep an eye on what's going to be happening. But it's very case specific. So it really depends on your specific case, where you live, the countries you lived in, the occupations you had, if you worked in the military, government. These are all things you're going to be taking a look at. So generally speaking, it take anywhere between 2 to 3 months for this to be finalized. They're having a lot of delays, but also your specific situation can also further delay any background check. All right. Cynthia says, what's the processing time for work permit GTS from biometric? So you're going to be getting your biometric request letter, and this is going to depend, how quickly you can get your biometric and how quickly the company is going to be sending it off to IRCC. So assuming you've done this within 2 weeks, the biometrics can take anywhere between 15 to 30 to 60 days, even when you're under, there's the question. Even when you're under the global talent stream, generally speaking, they do prioritize these applications to get it going. All right. AK says, can we continue working after applying for restoration status, where status has expired as of August 12th, and a work permit under public policy? Excellent question, AK. In this case, I would actually recommend that we go on over to our website. At the very top here, you can go onto our website and you can go to Speak to a Lawyer at the very top, and you can head on at the very bottom and book a consult with me to talk more about your case. Unfortunately, with this question here, I don't know enough to give a clear answer, but assuming that you've applied for the restoration under the postgraduate work permit extension, right? You are eligible for the postgraduate work permit extension, the postgraduate work permit restoration, but here it says, and a work permit under public policy. Are we talking about the interim work authorization email that you received under the postgraduate work permit? Generally speaking, if your status expired and you apply for restoration, you cannot continue working. However, the public policy for postgrad work permit, they issue to everyone interim work authorization. So in your case, you may be able to work. But again, book a consult with me. I'll just talk to you about more in detail. Kunar Gosh says, hi sir, to know if I will be eligible for visa if unfortunately I don't have more information here. Again, we are an immigration law firm. Head over to our website, Holth Immigration Law. It's also at the very bottom of the YouTube video in the comments. You can click on my bio at the very bottom in the comments to learn more about me, about my experience, about what I do. And then if you'd like to learn about our blogs, we have the blogs on our website. I just wrote a new one about the provincial proof of funds for provincial nominee program. And then you can also at the very top here book a consult to speak to speak with me about whether or not you qualify for a resident visa. It's really going to depend on your individual case, your program of why you're coming to Canada, your why you're going to be returning to your country, your previous immigration history, the funds that you have. I'd love to help you out with this. Also, as I talked about at the beginning of of uh, of this YouTube video, we do have also the Canadian Immigration Institute. We do have our own website, CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com. Again, link in the comments, and here you can actually we actually offer courses. The next one that we have coming up on August 15th is the spousal sponsorship course, and you can take a look here to see at what it's going to be about. At the very bottom, we're going to talk about all the things that we cover, right? Paper versus online, family class versus outside Canada, excluded relationships, how to complete the forms, photos, police clearance. This is all covered, and you get 5 hours of live Q&A with Mark. So small group, 10 to 15 people, have a chance to answer. Mark can have a chance to answer your questions. All right, let's keep going. Private sponsorship refugee in South Africa. Many got rejected with no reason. Again, it's hard. Again, I try to pick questions that everyone can benefit from. Unfortunately, there's lacking a little bit of information here. There could be various reasons why why the private sponsorship was rejected. Have you been recognized as a refugee by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees? There's so many questions when we talk about private sponsorships. Fortunately, I can't really answer this in our 30 seconds to 1 minute that we give to each question. Amara says, can one apply Canadian experience after 1 year working with a closed work permit? Yeah, so if you take a look here, let's go over to the eligibility, head over to the eligibility, and we're going to talk about the Canadian experience class. So this is a program under Express Entry to get your permanent residence. And let's talk about here the minimum requirements. So you can, after you have at least 1 year of skilled work experience, so knock O, A, or B, and this is full time, right? You are able to, you will be eligible for Canadian experience class. There's a few caveats, right? So not eligible if work without authorization, you acquired the work experience during your studies, not eligible for it for the Canadian experience class. As it relates to the closed work permit, again, so you need to have a valid authorization to work inside Canada. Or does it say? Right. So there you go. Have gained your work experience while under a temporary resident status with authorization to work. So in your case, a closed work permit, you're probably talking about a labor market impact assessment, which you were named inside the work permit. So you would qualify for you would meet the minimum eligibility as it relates to your foreign work experience. Now, what you might want to also know is about the offer for an arranged employment. So if you're able to get a labor market impact assessment, right, and you have a job offer, can you claim points for an arranged employment? So this is where some people actually get this wrong in their Express Entry profile. They're going to say, yep, got a job offer. But it has to has a very specific meaning. It's got to be arranged employment. So here we're talking about, right, the offer is supported by the valid assessment provided by the Department of Employment and Social Development at the request of the employer. Right, so here we're talking about the labor market impact assessment that you need to provide to obtain additional 50 points for Express Entry. So is the labor market impact assessment still valid? Is your employer willing to get you a new labor market impact assessment? Take a look here to see whether or not you would qualify for the 50 additional points, and you're going to get also additional points for your Canadian work experience. We just scroll back up. Work experience, Canadian work experience. All right, so after 1 year, this is spouse or common law. So after 1 year, if you're single, you're going to get 40 points for Canadian work experience, and if you're in a relationship, you're going to get 35. But what is most interesting is the adaptability points. So there's going to be also additional points you're going to get based on your Canadian work experience. Oops. Based on your Canadian work experience, and so here we're talking about the 40 points that we talked about, but here we have you're going to get more points for combination of your level of education, and your Canadian work experience. And you're also going to get more points for a combination of Canadian work experience and foreign work experience. So in your case, you might actually get quite a bit of points if you have foreign work experience and Canadian work experience, right? These are conditional points. Or if we scroll back up, the combination of your level of education and Canadian work experience, depending on where your post-grad work permit and right? But sorry, depending on your level of education, you actually get additional points. So it seems like there's a lot of points that you are able to claim if you do have the 1 year of work experience and you have your labor market impact assessment. And again, encourage you to book a consult on our website to talk more about your express entry. I'd love to help you out. Raman says, is appeal after study visa refusal a good option? So you can do a visa reconsideration request. If you head over to our website, I do have a blog, resource blog, and I talk more about visa application and was refused. So you can actually make a web form and argue to why they should reopen your file and continue processing your file. So this is an option, right? You can also go ahead and start a judicial review at the federal court. So it really depends on your case. It really depends on whether or not a mistake was committed by IRCC. If you don't qualify for the program, for example, you don't have sufficient funds and you get rejected for sufficient funds, there's going to be very little you can argue. But if the rejection says, you have, no ties in your country, you have family inside Canada, you have an express entry profile, and all this is false, you might have a higher chance of appealing your visa. So there we go. It really depends on your case. All right, we have here a paid question from Neo Miss, the Arsenal fan. Let's take a look. All right, I'm taking a 4-year program in October 2020. I took first year in England and moved to BC in the beginning of 2022. I'll finish about a year quicker than expected. Can I still get the 3-year post-grad work permit? All right, so let's go take a look at the post-grad work permit general page on who can apply. So there's a lot of public policies right now. Let's go take a look. All right, let's go share a screen here. So who can apply? Let's talk about who can apply. And then, right, so as you've correctly pointed out, if it's 8 months, right, 1-year study program, you will only get a 1-year postgraduate work permit. However, if it's more than, if it's 2 years, we're going to be talking about getting that longer postgraduate work permit extension. Let's go try to find here the requirements. Um, so it's really, again, sometimes it's hard to find. There's so much information by IRCC. We're gonna have a clear page that talks to us about this. Listen, let's just let's keep this going here. So the general question is, it's really gonna have to depend on how many your program studies, but also how long you've actually completed inside the program. So to get the postgraduate work permit, you do have to maintain full-time status, right, inside of your studies. Oh, there we go. Here's the page. Inside, so you have to maintain full-time studies. If there is a break that you're going to be taking inside your studies, it has to be generally approved by your your designated learning institute. And then you're probably going to be falling under this category here, right? If your program was at least 8 months but less than 2 years. So here we're talking about the actual length that you studied. You can have a 3-year program, you finish in 2 years, you've completed 2 years, right? So here talks about the length of your study program, but in reality it's going to talk about, how long have you actually studied. And then so here, if you completed 9 months, you're going to get a 9 months. And if it was 2 years or more, you're going to get a postgraduate work permit that's for 3 years. So interesting case. Beginning of 2012, 4-year program, so you're expected to graduate in 2024. So you're going to have all of 2023 completed. So you're going to have, so let's go through this. So beginning of 2022, so assuming you did the winter 2022, that's 4 months, and then you did your fall 2023, and then you winter 2023, and then and then winter 2024, you could be looking at actually a 2-year study program of completing 2 years of studies. It's hard to know exactly when you started studying and how long you're going to have, but take a look at this page. Sorry I can't be more helpful, but again, it's not to do with you can sign up to a 4-year program if you've only studied for 2 years. It's going to be, you've only studied for 2 years. You're still going to get your 3-year postgrad work permit. Maybe a bad example, but let's say that you've done, less than 2 years inside Canada. This is what's going to be applying to you, regardless if your program of study is, um, is is longer than that. So they're really looking at the amount of time that you've studied inside Canada. And they talk here about studies inside Canada and outside Canada, but this is to do with whether or not it was online. So take a closer look here to see what case you fall into. Again, we could talk more in detail about your case, Naomis, in detail in a consultation. All right. So lots of great questions here, guys. Unfortunately, we're gonna be wrapping up our 1 hour live Q&A. Let's go try to find here a general question. General question here that could be applying to a lot of people. TG, so there we go. So this is an interesting question, and it kind of leads on what I was talking about before. So here we're talking about, is there any chance for getting points from Canada by applying for any distance education from any Canadian universities? So this is going to be our last question, and right here it talks about studies outside Canada. So in your case, you're studying at a Canadian university from outside Canada, and let's take a look here. So the short answer is that during COVID, so generally before COVID, it was not allowed. More than 50% of your studies had to be in person in Canada full time. That was the general rule. During COVID, they made an exception. So from spring 2022 to August 31, 2022, if you were distance learning, if you had to leave Canada because of COVID, you couldn't come back, they're going to be allowing it. All right. But they've now ended. So it's going to be ending. All right, the following time won't count towards the length of a postgraduate work permit after August 31, 2022. So this is for if you want to get the postgraduate work permit. Sorry, let's go back to your question. Is there any chance for getting points from Canada by applying for any distance education from outside Canada? So here, let's go back to the ministerial instructions to talk about how you're going to get points for your degree. Generally speaking, you do have to be in person for the education inside Canada. And let's go find the points. So Canadian, let's go find this Canadian study here. Canadian education. So let's go take a look at the definition of points for Canadian educational credentials. So there we go. So here we have it. So studied or trained at a Canadian education institution that is located inside Canada, complete at least 8 months of the study program for a full-time basis. And then here we go. So here's what you don't meet: was physically present inside Canada for at least 8 months of that study or training. So in your case, if you do distance education, you're going to be outside Canada. You're not going to be physically present. You're not going to get the points for this. And as I mentioned, during COVID, they allowed it for a certain period of time from March 1, 2020 until the end of August 31st, 2022. They made an exception. This is brand new. This is brand new as of July 26th. Not even a month old. So to answer your question, Tiju, you will not get points if you do distance learning outside Canada after August 31st, 2022. If you previously studied distance learning, you will get your points if you meet that strict criteria. So thank you so much, guys. We have some J Pal says, thank you, Cédric. It was my pleasure, guys. I've added another thank you. Here we go. We have also Cool Ninja. We got through a lot of questions. I'm trying to pick up the pace a little bit to try to get through as many questions as possible. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for joining me. I telework abroad. I'd love to meet with you to talk more about your immigration case. We do offer full reviews of applications from express entry to study permits to work permits. You can go on over to our website. It's called Wholesale Immigration Law. You can learn more about us and our teams. We have resources like blogs. We have immigration courses. We have our legal services as well that we're developing. So more about express entry. This may answer a lot of your questions. How long does express entry take to process? What is an unreasonable delay? What to do if your application is delayed? How to find the correct knock code? We have a lot of content that we produce. We also have more YouTube videos, right? So avoid these top 5 mistakes. Everything here is on our website. Do you need a lawyer? Here we talk about you don't, but we'd love to work with you to make sure that everything is properly prepared, your supporting documents are in order, you have the best immigration strategy to come inside Canada. So thank you so much, everyone. It was my pleasure to answer these questions, and we're gonna have more live Q&As every Tuesday, 4 a.m. Toronto time, 9 a.m. London, UK time. Thank you so much for having me. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.